Here we are again. This place still gives me the chills.
Well, at least we now have our new orcish friends to delight us with their company.
You don't seem happy about this.
I just don't like the idea of putting my fate into the hands of these savages. What happened there at Barga Gore was nothing short of a bloodbath.
Revolts tend to be bloody.
I know, but... never mind.
In any case, with our new allies, we should be able to go look for the stones. Let's talk at the forge.
There you are again. Gore's new friend. I truly hope he knows what he's doing. Orcs following the orders of a pale skin. That hasn't happened before. But, to be fair, you've given me little reason to distrust you. You did great in that battle against Krell.
Thank you. So you're the commander of the Fire Wielders?
Chieftain. And I serve Gore, our High Chieftain, who follows your advice. In other words, I'm the third down the list. Mainly, I'm here to make sure our warriors stay in shape and are well equipped. And if you're willing to invest some coin, I might even come up with a way to permanently increase their strength.
Can you tell me more about the Fire Wielders? About your traditions?
Well, since Gore is now our High Chieftain, he's the one you should talk to. But I'll do my best.
The Mage Wars. How did they affect the orcs?
Hardly. Some tribes, like the Fleshkins and the Ash Reavers, used the chance to invade your lands. As you've noticed in that Iskander village, Farland's Hope. Apart from that, we just stood out of it. Though, of course, we had our own sack of problems to deal with. Such as idiots like Krell.
How did the Bloodburn affect the orcs?
It still does. For some reason, not as often as in human lands. But nonetheless, and when it hit, it did so with full force. There were 2 outbreaks among the Fire Wielders, and every time, the affected died within a couple of days. The Kayran clan was hit the hardest.
Interesting. I wonder why the races react so differently.
Well, I'm a warrior, not a shaman or an elder. You'll have to find out yourself.
I'll be going, Tsar. Thanks for your help.
Sure.
Got it. What do we need?
Now look at that. The fabled Corporal. Good to finally meet you in person. I'm Flynn, second in command of the Wayfarers. I have to say, for someone who only led a puny Nortander division once, you're doing quite a good job leading an army so far. Not that I'm saying I couldn't do better, but still. Anyway, have you come to arm our men? I strongly suggest you do so.
But you're armed already, aren't you?
Well, yes, with rusty swords and dented armors. I mean with proper equipment. If you give me the coin, I'll send out orders to my contacts in Everlight. It'll improve our strike force significantly.
I want to buy some better equipment for the Wayfarers.
Music to my ears. What did you have in mind?
Interesting. That's all for now.
Will do, Tahar. Fortune favors the man with the cross... Huh?
I want to buy some...
Music to my ears. What did you have in mind? Huh?
Can you tell me more about you? Rowan seems to think highly of you.
As he should. What do you want to know?
Can you
As he should. What do you want?
So, what's your job in the Wayfarers?
Well, let's just say that I know a great deal of people. And I can also handle myself in a fight.
What did you do before the Wayfarers were formed?
Depends on how far before we're talking. I did some jobs here and there and then joined the military.
Some jobs. So you were a baker? A bard?
Very funny. I was a mercenary.
And then you joined the Royal Army?
Yes, I was even part of the Wolf Guard for a year or so.
Really? How come we never met?
Because that was way before your time. I know I don't look it, but I'm quite some years ahead of you, Tahar. I served under General Noria, under Sentenza, before that disaster at the Iskander Fortress.
How come you left?
Well, there were a couple of reasons. In a nutshell, I didn't agree with some of the things Sentenza made us do. So I deserted, just like you. Anyway, after I left, I went back into the mercenary business for a while. Then the MAGE war broke out, things went to shit, and I went into hiding. Finally, a year ago, I met Rowan, and he told me about his idea. I immediately agreed. Doing good while not being bound to uniforms, orders, and morning drills was something I'd always wanted to do. I simply didn't expect anyone else to share that vision.
That's all for now. Keep your chin up, Flynn.
Will do, Tahar. And don't forget, an honorable man fights to the death. A wise man knows when to run.
Yes. Now would you look at that?
What do you want?
Just checking how you're settling in.
I'm good. Thanks. Interesting place you found yourself here, I'll give you that.
Back in the cave, you told me that you fought that demon in order to gain control over it. I'd still like to know how that works.
It's complicated.
That's it?
For now.
How did you end up in Barga Gore?
It's a long story. Suffice to say, I've been on the road for quite some time now, and Barga Gore just happened to be my last spot before I ran into you. Let's talk about you instead. You gathered a ton of followers, one outcast after another. Tell me, Tahar, do you trust them?
Of course I do.
Huh. To be honest, I don't understand how you can do it. You have that look about you, and it's driving me nuts. It literally says, hurt me.
What do you mean by that?
I've observed you on the way back from Barga Gore. The way you move, the way you talk. I get why other people follow your lead. I really do. You simply have some kind of strange charisma. It's not visible at first glance, but it's there. You give people hope. I guess that's what it boils down to. You attract outsiders, and you get them to march under your banner.
How is that a bad thing?
It's a bad thing because you're too careless. All these people, did it ever occur to you that they're outsiders for a reason? The treacherous orc, the renegade elf, the exiled dwarf? Still, you trust them. Even if you put your stern face on, I can see that you do. And it's why people follow you. But trust doesn't protect from betrayal. But let's stop this right here, okay? I'm sure you have things to do, and so do I.
Let's see.
Huh?
So, have we gotten past that I don't trust you thing? I want to know more about you.
Well, there isn't that much to know about me, Tahar. I'm a demonologist from Kalea, and I've been on the road for a couple of years now. That's it.
Wait, you're Kalayan?
Yeah. And I know I don't have the accent, but that was a lot of training.
What made you come to Nortander?
Long story, and I don't want to talk about it. Anything else, Tahar? If not, let me get back to my grimoire.
Can you tell me more about Kalea? What's it like there?
It's a pretty general question, Corporal.
There's been a lot of tension between Nortander and Kalea during the Mage War. How is the situation now?
I haven't been back since, so I couldn't tell you. But according to the sailors, things have gotten better.
Do you happen to know if Kalea is affected by the Bloodburn too?
Don't think so, no. At least I haven't heard anything.
Kalea is a city-state, isn't it? Like Everlight.
Yeah. Well, almost. When people say Kalea, they usually refer to the chain of islands in the Sea of Dreams, a couple of miles from Imperia. However, only the big one in the middle is really inhabited. And that one's pretty much just a massive city called Kalea. Nobody can remember the names of the other islands, not even the Kaleans themselves. But yeah, it's essentially a city-state. And even though Kalea is small, it's very powerful. You know, spices, sugar, sea jewels, all the kind of stuff a tropical paradise has to offer.
Rich as a Kalean, isn't that how they say?
Yeah, though that ignores the fact that there's thousands of Kaleans starving to death in the slums.
What are Kaleans like, compared to Nortandians?
Huh, good question. I don't spend that much time socializing, so I don't know if I can give you the answer to that. But all in all, Kaleans are a lot less stiff than you Nort folks. Kaleans like to sing, to dance, and to fuck. They do it a lot, sometimes at the same time. They admire philosophy and magic, and being good in either of those makes you the equivalent of a famous bard here in Greyfell. On the other hand, the people are two-faced. That's a lot better here in Nortander. You have your little intrigues, but you generally say what you mean, which Kaleans see as almost primitive.
Can you tell me more about your craft? About demonology?
And why's that? Thinking about a career change?
I'm just curious.
Are you? I hope you do realize that demonology isn't a forbidden school for no reason. Most people who mess with it die. But sure, if you have questions, ask.
Let's start with the basics. What's the core principle of demonology?
It's simple. You study demons and their powers, and bind them to your will. And thus you gain access to their powers. Take a devourer. Once you've studied and subdued her to your will, you can access her strength. And I'm not talking about merely summoning her. You can channel her powers.
How is that supposed to work? Channeling their powers?
Hard to describe. Just imagine that the demon becomes a part of you. You connect it with your magic, so to speak. And when needed, you can call on it to help you. It's not just the power that comes with it. It's also the feeling. Channeling the essence of a Zarek Nar, a tribe eater. It's a feeling that compares to nothing else in this world. You can't understand it till you've done it.
So in order to bind them, you need to beat them in battle, correct?
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that, but yeah. In a nutshell, that's it.
And I'm guessing that's what makes it so dangerous.
Among other things, yes. What can also happen is that your body simply can't handle a demon's unleashed essence. It can cause a brain rupture similar to what these masks the Purity use. And, to be honest, that happens to 8 out of 10 students of demonology. They subdue a demon, get excited, and let all their energy rush in at once. As a result, their brains explode like a watermelon hit with a warhammer.
Sounds painful. So, why exactly is demonology forbidden?
Because it's dangerous. And because demonologists can be extremely powerful. More than some members of the ruling caste would like to see.
Is there a limit to how many demons you can bind?
No. If there were, I wouldn't still be traveling after all this time.
Interesting. Thanks for the insight.
Sure.
What's next? Interesting.
Zal Raka.
Gore, how are you and the Fire Wielders settling in?
All right, I guess. Though there've been some quarrels between my warriors and these mercenaries. But don't worry, I took care of it. And that Rowan promised to do the same. Nonetheless, Tahar, I have to say it. I don't like this place. Not at all.
Why not?
Well, I guess it's the people who once lived here. The Shapers. They were corrupted. And I can feel that corruption even now.
Corrupted?
Yeah. Their customs, their culture. They were completely detached from the order of nature.
How so?
Do you even need to ask? Just look around. Ghost warriors, strange machines, strange buildings. Especially this place, this nexus. They thought they were above everything, even the gods. And they meddled with things they didn't understand. It's disgusting.
Well, they're dead now.
Maybe. But I can still feel their presence. Anyway, nothing we can do about it. If the Shapers caused the blood burn, I understand why we need this place. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Now that you look at that. What's it like to change form? I've been wondering about that since I met you.
I can imagine. It's exhilarating and strange at the same time. If it taught me one thing, then it's how foolish it is to put the mind above every other aspect of the body. Many people do that, especially scholars or mages.
What do you mean?
Because the shape of our flesh is so much more than just a shell. It defines us. When I take on the form of a wolf, for example, this wolf isn't just me with fangs and paws. It's a different version of myself.
A different version?
Yes. You can understand if you haven't been there. But I guess you could say that when I'm taking on a creature's form, a part of my mind gets infused with that creature's essence. The thirst for the hunt. Thinking as part of a pack, just to name the most obvious aspects. They meld with my mind. When I was young and first started shifting, the creature always dominated. It was like a feverish dream, and I had almost no control over my actions. With time, it got better.
Did you ever completely lose control when you were in another form?
In the beginning, yes. But the Elder always made sure I was in a controlled environment when I did my first transformations.
How does it feel to shift into a spider?
Strange. Being a mammal, a wolf or bear, it feels different, but still somehow familiar. A spider is something else entirely. The way you see, the way you perceive, the way you feel. The first time I shifted, I couldn't bear it for more than a minute, and it haunted me for weeks after that.
Yeah, I imagine. How do you learn a new form?
That's complicated. First you have to understand that creature, observe it, live with it if possible. That can take months, years, sometimes decades. Then there's what we shamans call the first joining. You have to visualize your shift.
How does that work?
I can't explain it. It's like your first bloodshed. It can't be explained, only experienced.
So in theory, could you transform into anything? Even, say, a wyvern, a dragon?
In theory, yes. In practice, there's no known shapeshifter who has ever done that. Save for old orcish legends, maybe.
Why not?
First off, there aren't many dragons around to study. And even if there were, you aren't likely to survive it. Secondly, transforming into something that enormous, it can be lethal. Our minds, our essence just isn't fit to govern such a massive body. Only some years ago there was talk of an Ash Reaver shifter who had attempted to morph into a troll. He succeeded, but his heart, the troll's heart, stopped before he could take a single step. So you see why most shifters aren't that eager to experiment.
Huh, wow. That's definitely interesting. Thanks for taking the time to explain.
Sure.
Back in Barga Gor, you told me that you think the orcs should strive to be more. What do you mean by that? Do you consider your culture to be, well, inferior?
Inferior? No, not at all. On the contrary, I'm glad to be a fire wielder, and not a human or an elf.
Why?
Because not so unlike the Shapers, your culture is bigoted, strange. You like to tell yourselves you're more than the animals you slaughter for food. You call yourselves civilized. But in the end, you look for the struggle just as anything and anyone else does. But of course you don't admit to it. You want to be better than that. And the result are lies, intrigue, wars, and assassinations. Their culture is so bizarre that it's almost amusing.
Well, you have a point.
I know. So no, I don't consider our culture to be inferior. But we've gone astray. Fools such as Krell was one. They're the reason your race looks down on us. If Zakrak had wanted us to be ever fighting ravaging brutes, he wouldn't have given us minds to begin with. Every brawl, every battle, every war has to have a purpose. It isn't something done for pleasure. Yes, it can be enjoyed. But at its core, it is ritual. The most basic one of nature.
In other words, violence and war are good and necessary, but only within measure?
Yes, and it should be learned from. That's where most orcs disagree. They claim to value wisdom, but when asked to choose between words and a club, they always choose the club. And as you see, this is why our culture has stagnated. In its current state, there will never be an orc empire, a great tribe, or the earth-shaking horde Zarek envisioned.
So what you want is to lead your people to a better future?
You make it sound so dramatic. For now, the Fire Wielders are a good start. And by helping you, they will hopefully see that diplomacy and strength don't always contradict each other. After that, we shall see.
Don't you think a world without violence is possible?
No.
Why? Isn't that what we should all aspire to?
We should aspire to a lot of things. But tell me, Tahar, this world has existed for millennia. And has there ever been peace? Lasting peace?
No.
Exactly. And you don't think there's a reason for this? As I said, our very existence is based on conflict. Finding food, not freezing to death. Living means to struggle. Your people, with your warm clothes and banquets, try all in your power to forget that fact. But you can't, because ultimately, there's as much thirst for struggle in you as in an orc. What we orcs believe is that we should embrace it. That we should just face the truth, even if it's ugly. That the ways of nature can't be changed by its creation. It's like fighting the tides.
So what? Do we just kill each other whenever we feel like it?
No. That's what Krell wanted. And that's as stupid as denying the struggle altogether. What we need is a way to channel our urges. Ceremonial battles, arenas. A society that is centered around survival and strength, and gains, rather than loses stability from it. Because if we simply suppress these urges, such as humans, the elves, and the dwarves do, they will at one point only erupt even more violently.
I get your point, but I'm sure there must be another way.
There isn't. Anyway, where were we?
Did you always have these ambitions?
No.
Then where did they come from?
None of your business, Tahar. Sorry.
All right. Well, thanks for explaining.
Sure.
Back in Bargagor, do you consider...
Inferior?
Why?
You liked it, but of course you don't admit to it.
That might go for some.
Maybe. So no, I don't consider fools such as... Yeah, and you make it sound so dramatic.
Well...
Sure.
I'll be off. Let's see... Alright, let's get to the chase. We need to discuss where and how we start our search. You're all familiar with the objective?
Find the Forge Stones, reignite the Nexus, decipher the song with it, and put an end to the blood burn.
That's about it. Area thinks that someone removed the Nexus stones shortly before the city was abandoned, but they left markers on the stone map. And now that we have a small army backing us up, we can start searching. Iskrim?
Yeah, we suspect one of the stones to be in the desert of Aenir's Blade, probably in the possession of the Iron Falcons, whereas the other one is on an unknown island.
An unknown island?
Correct. And yes, the oceans might have long taken it, which is why the only way to find out is to build a ship. And to...
Wait. I am not certain, but I might know what that island is. Does it happen to be in the northwest? In the Black Sea?
I think so.
Well, that's fascinating. 2 years ago, there was an archaeologist in Everlight who claimed the same, that there was an island in the Black Sea, unknown to our cartographers.
Did he find it?
That is a complicated story. But building a ship would take a month, and this is a trail we could follow. If we go to Everlight, I can tell you more.
Well, it does sound promising.
And intriguing. So, where do we go first, Tahar? Everlight or Aenir's Blade?
I'll think about it and let you know when we head out. For now, just get prepared.
Will do, Corporal.